Have you been saved? When I was young, growing up in a small town, I would hear this question ring out and my mind would race internally, asking myself if I had done enough. I always knew the question came with good intentions, but somehow this never gave me the confidence I was seeking. And nowadays, when I think about Orthodox theology, I often think about standing at the foot of a huge mountain. I'm standing there with all the gear in my hands, and I'm pretty nervous because in theory, climbing it may seem straightforward, but I know that once I'm up 30 to 40 feet in the air, everything is going to get very real very fast. But then someone comes along and says, listen, I know what I'm doing. I'm a climber, and I watched my father, who was an expert climber, do this, and his father, and many generations of fathers before them. Let's just do exactly what they did, and we'll do it together. Well, I would suggest that many in my position would not only follow every one of his instructions to the letter, but I personally would try to exactly replicate every move he made and every foothold he used, even if he didn't explicitly command me to. And to me, this kind of sums up Orthodoxy. The expert climber represents the apostles, and the gracious teacher would be like the parish priest or deacon or spiritual father. Everybody on the ground yelling out what they think I should do represents every other opinion for salvation, of which there are many. But in reality, I don't have enough time or lives to figure out if what they're saying will work. And since I know we'll only get one chance, I'm just going to go with the proven path that I've seen it demonstrated by the saints. The reality is that only God knows who will be counted worthy to join him in the heavens. In Jesus' own words in John 10, he says, "Enter by the narrow gate," which suggests plainly that many will not make it for whatever reason. But I also know there will be many non-Orthodox that will also find salvation, because Jesus also said, "And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring." And that was in Matthew 7. But for a sinner like me, I know I'd better at least try to get the right ingredients if I have any chance at all. So in my view, the Orthodox Church has never taken license with the examples of the apostles and the early church fathers. And when they created the liturgy and served communion 2,000 years ago, the church never changed it. And if they said you must be baptized in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, you're getting dunked 3 times just like they've always done. And in James 5, when he says, "Confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed," it doesn't mean only to say sorry to God privately. It means we must humble ourselves and go to confession where a priest can read us the prayer. Because Christ himself also said, "If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. And if you retain the sins of any, they are retained." And that was in John 20. So it's not really up to me to opine on if it makes sense or not. But one thing to note, however, is to remember that Jesus Christ spent his time on earth with sinners. He could read hearts, and he didn't always like what he saw in many of the people that walked around showing how self-righteous they were. But when someone holds a Bible in their hand and yells out that you are saved, I tell them, thank you very much. But in my heart, I know I'm not just going to follow anyone up the mountain. I'm going to follow the people that have replicated every step of the first climbers who made it to the top. And when you walk into an Orthodox church, the priest serving communion can trace his documented lineage through 2,000 years of successive bishops all the way back to the apostles. And in my view, since we only get one chance to climb, and even if we slip over and over again, we might as well aim for the narrow gate.